As part of our unit on the Holocaust, we're going to talk a little bit about propaganda. We're going to discuss what propaganda is and later on how it was used by the leaders of Nazi Germany to result in the deaths of millions of people. First, we're going to look at what propaganda is and how it differs from other persuasive techniques that we've studied so far. There are big differences between what constitutes persuasion and persuasive writing as we know it, and what constitutes propaganda. We'll see what some propaganda techniques are, and we'll take a look at some examples of their use that are typical in the media. We're going to then go on to putting this in the context of Nazi Germany, and we'll see how the Nazis used propaganda to further the extermination of millions of people in death camps. And finally, we're going to talk about what you should do about propaganda in your own life. Can you recognize it? And if so, what are some ways that you might react to it? So first, what is propaganda? Propaganda is a term we use to refer to a set of techniques that are used to influence people's opinions, emotions, attitudes, or behavior. Now, earlier this year, we began talking about persuasion and forms of persuasive writing, but there's a difference between propaganda and other forms of persuasion. True, the idea of propaganda is to convince people to come around to the propagandist's way of thinking to sway their opinions, but propaganda differs from persuasive techniques we've already looked at because it appeals strictly to the emotions, not to the intellect. As a matter of fact, in some cases, as we'll see, propagandists go out of the way to cloud or bury the truth altogether and appeal to people's more base instincts. And again, that will be particularly true in the case of the Nazis, as we'll see. But keep that in mind. Much of what we've done with persuasion so far involved your coming up with arguments to, factual arguments, I should say, to bolster a point you wanted to make. In propaganda, we're not talking about intellectual arguments. We're talking about appealing to people's emotions, regardless of what the truth of a situation is. Propaganda is designed to spread the adoption of an idea, regardless of its truth, and always in a one-sided manner. In propaganda, you won't usually see two sides of a question. So who uses propaganda? Well, typically we'll see propaganda referred to in uses by government, in advertising, and we're going to look at some examples, particularly of advertising today, and very often used by politicians. There are a number of techniques that propagandists use to get their messages across, and there are more than I've got on this list, but for the time being and for the purposes of this presentation, and you're seeing what the Nazis did, we're going to limit ourselves to 8 of these techniques. The 4 on the left are what we're going to look at in this presentation. They're called bandwagon, testimonial, snob appeal, and plain folks. The ones on the right side are very typical of those that are used by demagogues and by people such as the Nazis. Appeals to patriotism, name-calling, use of a technique called the big lie, and scapegoating. But we're going to look at the first 4 first. So, bandwagon, that's kind of a colorful name, and it really comes from a time when bands, musical bands, would ride into town on a wagon, much like you'd see in a circus. And the expression, get on the bandwagon, referred to people following this wagon wherever it went, no matter who was on it. So, when we talk about bandwagons and getting on the bandwagon, it refers to doing what everyone else is doing for no other reason than everyone else is doing it. You know the old expression, well, if everybody jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge, would you do it too? Well, in a bandwagon effect, you might. It's people being urged to do something because everyone else is doing it. It's convincing the subject that one side is the winning side simply because more people have joined in and that you should not be left behind. You don't want to be the last one. So here's an example of bandwagon. You'll see ads like this. 4 out of 5 dentists use Whammo toothpaste. Do you? Well, of course that implies if you don't, and 4 out of 5 dentists too, do so, what's the matter with you? Why aren't you using Whammo toothpaste? Now, we have no idea if Whammo toothpaste is any good, if it's any better than X, Y, and Z toothpaste. All we know is lots of people are using it, so you should too. Here's another example. Beyonce, in concert this Friday. Only a handful of tickets left. Don't miss out. Oh boy, are you going to be the only one not at the Beyonce concert? Never mind whether you like Beyonce or not. This is a happening. You need to be there. And if you're not, well, what's wrong with you? Nobody wants to be left out. The next technique we're going to look at is called testimonial. Testimonial. Testimonials consist of statements by somebody endorsing an idea or product, but not just anybody, a prominent person. Maybe it's a musical artist. Maybe it's a giant of sports. Maybe it's an actor or actress. But the idea is, if a celebrity you admire believes in a product or idea, well, you should as well. The product can be inside or outside the celebrity's area of expertise. It almost doesn't matter, and we'll see examples of that shortly. Here's a couple of recent television commercials that are examples of testimonial. Let's take a look.
First, the bad news. 87% of this country suffers from digestive issues like occasional irregularity. No wonder our busy lives sometimes force us to eat the wrong things at the wrong time. Now the good news. I just discovered a yogurt called Activia that can help.
With the natural culture Bifidus regularis, Activia eaten every day is clinically proven to help regulate your digestive system in 2 weeks.
The other good news? Activia tastes great.
Activia.
It's gotta be a tag.
Hanes introduces the tagless tea. No tag, no itch. Hanes Comfort. It's a beautiful thing.
Go tagless.
Okay, so there are a couple of examples. Now, Jamie Lee Curtis, terrific actress, very funny woman. What she knows, however, about people's digestive systems, I have no idea. But enough people like Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's popular enough, that she's going to be closely identified with this product, which is fine with the company, since they're the ones who hired her. So hopefully, because if you like Jamie Lee Curtis, you're going to listen to her advice. Same thing with Michael Jordan, fabulous basketball player. So fabulous that Hanes Underwear has used him as a spokesman for years. Now, what Michael Jordan knows about underwear, I have no idea. But I guarantee you they're selling a lot of underwear because Michael Jordan likes it. Those are examples of testimonial.